We're back, our fourth episode with the Locked In podcast. I, myself, Joe Pyfer, with Sammy O, and we got two special guests, very near and dear to heart for me personally, and Ricky Lee and Stephen Haigh. One of the biggest, before we even introduce you guys, but one of the biggest inspirations for me to be in jiu-jitsu and have gone as far as I have, and always kept me in a good place mentally, being around you guys and around the gym. And I would have to say, looking back, you were probably my biggest inspiration, man, and I am very excited to talk to you. I know we've talked to a handful throughout the years, but I'm truly excited to ask a bunch of questions. So, Ricky Lee, Steve Haigh, thank you for being here on our fourth episode.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us
Philly.
along.
You haven't seen me in a while. So,
You better hold that mic to your mouth. I swear, if you drop it, see. First question that I want to say: are you guys both still living in Philly?
absolutely. Fishtown.
No, I'm right outside of Philly, so not too far out. I'm just outside of Manayunk, so.
Ricky,
Yeah, Fishtown.
are you still training?
Right around the corner. I'm just starting. Him and I, Meathead, are going to start training real soon. Once I clean my basement, I had a flood, so.
Now you say meathead, but were you not vegetarian for the last 15 years?
Man, I was vegetarian for 17 years. I mean, staunch vegetarian too. Like I mean, I lived it. I was it. I was like trying to get everyone to be it because I don't know. I was just on this way of thinking for a long time. I felt like it was the way, the right way, as I learned the hard way. Through going through cancer treatments, that it wasn't beneficial to stay living that way. And in many ways, I feel like it may have even led to me being sick in the first place, which is interesting.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of things with like the vegetarian, especially the greens, when you learn about what oxalates are and like how they're harmful to your gut health and how they strip nutrients and cause a lot of complications. But speaking of that, you did have cancer. What kind of cancer did you have? When did you get it? And obviously, you look to be pretty healthy right now.
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2020 with nasopharyngeal cancer, which was pretty much a tumor in the middle of my head. Ended up spreading to the lymph nodes of my neck. It was torture. I mean, to hell and back. My lowest, I was probably 125 pounds. I was trying to eat. Both radiation and chemo just burned the shit out of my throat. So it was really tough to swallow and get stuff down. I mean, much less vegetables, which, many are acidic. And even just getting water down was a nightmare. So, yeah.
You were a vegetarian, obviously, through having all your treatments.
Yeah, I was still on this train of thought. Still trying to eat vegetarian. But in saying that, like my body was suggesting something different. What I was craving wasn't vegetables. It was chicken, and I hadn't had those cravings in a long time. I mean, because up until that point, it was like almost 17 years being vegetarian. So I bought a chicken. It was the only thing that was just felt like I didn't lose taste on. It was kind of wild. So I started back with chicken. Shortly after, I was trying to gain my weight back after treatments. I put on a little bit of weight initially, but I kind of plateaued about 150 pounds, which was still like probably 30 pounds lighter than normal, pre-diagnosis weight. So I started eating red meat again. I kind of just phased out vegetables. I just started reading a lot more. A lot of people sent me information and provided me with reading material, books, different things that really kind of helped me, change path.
So when were you cancer-free?
Cancer-free, the end of 2020. They did a second round of chemo. It's just a precautionary kind of measure. yeah, I ended up going to Abu Dhabi with Chris Dawkins for his fight there with the UFC. And when I got back, already they thought it was too late to do the final chemo treatment, so they cut me one short. But at that point, they deemed that I was far enough along and clear.
So, with your intro, you said Steve is a big inspiration, was a big inspiration for you starting martial arts. And that's because Steve and Ricky, for those who don't know, were the founders of the Philadelphia Fight Factory. And this is the gym where Joey trained at. This is the gym where I trained at. Eddie Alvarez, Zach Makovsky, basically almost every Philadelphia MMA fighter in the mid to late 2000s trained. Steve, and Ricky, can you take us through your history of martial arts, how the Fight Factory started, and really how you got your start in martial arts?
Fire off. You go first.
No, you go first.
All right, so I grew up in Fishtown. As you know, it's a nice neighborhood now. It wasn't always a nice neighborhood. Being like a Chinese American kid, racism back then is a lot different than it was now. You had to have, your skin had to be a little tougher, And for the first part of my life, I got messed with by everybody, even my own friends. So it was one of those things where moms just said, I'm sick of you coming in. I'm sick of chasing people down the street with baseball bats for you. So you're going to have to learn how to defend yourself. So she put me into martial arts. I did Taekwondo, Cancelleries. What's up, guys? After that, it was I went to Front Street Boxing. Johnny Mulvanna trained me. Then I trained with Brian McGinley at Harrogate. Tried wrestling in high school, but it wasn't for me because I was diagnosed with malnutrition. When I first, I was a run. I was a run. I went into high school. Freshman year, and I was 100.
He still suffers.
I still do. Because to this asshole, go vegan, go vegetarian. I tried for 3.5 years. I went down to 137. We'll get into that another time, or later on in the conversation. But so I can iron out the martial arts thing. So Bruce Lee, I was a fan. Who wasn't a fan? You know what I mean? It was like, who don't want to be this guy? So the closest thing that I could get was Taekwondo. It was right there. And I had to get on my mom took me up on the L. My cousins were already involved in it. And finally, my mom could afford it. And she said, let's give it a shot. And I loved it. And it was awesome. And then, like I said, tried wrestling, couldn't cut weight. I was 112. No, I got up to 119. The doctor put me on Ensure back then. And they said, hey, why don't you cut to 112, you'll be a monster. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, I didn't know back then. I would have been a monster. And I didn't know a lot about wrestling. It was like, no, there's no punching in this? All right, I don't want to do this. So then after that, it was like boxing, took a break, and then the UFC came along. There's different things in between, but just to give you a quick breakdown so I don't go rambling. Then the UFC came along, and this guy fucking Hoist is like murdering people, murking these dudes. And I'm like, will someone punch this fucking dude in the face? What? And then that Gerard Gordeau dude came along, and I'm like, this dude's got him. This dude's got him. Kick the teeth out of dude's mouth. You know what I mean? What's his name? Tua? David Tua? Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is my sport. This is it. And what's cool is he was just in my basement. I had a flood, but I saved a lot of things. I got tapes, all VCR tapes from all those old fights. Every single one. Like the UFCs, the boxing, all the shit from back then. Anyway, so from there, I went to an Aikido class. Oh, I'm sorry. Closer? Oh, I'm sorry. Closer, center. I got. I talk on the mic the most out of all
Pretend
of
it's
us.
something hanging around the front of you.
So, yeah, right. So, once I found this, I was in Maxercise. My brother, we went to an Aikido place down the street, and it was like this little old Japanese lady tossing people, like Seagal kind of did. And I'm like, I'll kick this old lady right in the face. Like, I will walk over and soccer kick this lady. Only in my head, though. Like a little ghetto
So
kid
violent.
thinking, like, she's smaller than me. What are these dudes doing rolling all over the place? And I was like, it's a martial art. I'm not going to insult it. Let's go down to this. It was Yellow Pages back then. I was like, let's go down to this Maxercise place. It's got this crazy jiu-jitsu stuff. Went down there. Steve Maxwell was a purple belt. This is before Phil and Rick were even belted. I was there when Phil got his blue belt. You know what I mean? And I see this purple belt dude just murking people. And I'm sitting over to my brother, and they're doing this. If you know the Gracie, You know, headlock, arm escape, all that roll, all the moves to that. I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I said, "Oh man, yo Keith, what if he like fucking fish hooks him, or what if he gouges his eyes? What if he?" And it was like he was hearing me. I'm like, "There's something to this. There's something to this." And he's like, "This is for the street. This is for the smaller person. This is for when someone pulls your hair and this." And he was answering every question. My brother and I pretty much sitting there, and I couldn't believe it. I was sold. And then I
What year was it when you walked in the Maxercise?
oh, brutal. I don't even know. I can't remember yet.
Early 90s?
Like I said, if you talk to Rick and Phil when they were weight belts, and Ryan, there was a kid named Ryan there, tall, red hair. He was like one of the brothers. They were awesome. I got to meet like Hoyce and Helson and all those guys, man. It was awesome. But to be honest, the year they could tell you better than me. Oh, and who else was there? I told you the other day who was there. Jared Weiner. Yeah, Jared Weiner started at the same time as me. And what happened was, like, when I was young, I had rosacea, and the geese were making my back break out and making everything just, and I stopped going, and it was
Ricky
bad.
had tons of problems, man.
It was
Holy
bad,
shit.
dude. Yeah, I know. It was
I
bad.
have rosacea.
I did. I still have it. But anyway, I got it under control. Long story short, then I found Muay Thai under Johan's gym, training there for a little bit, and then the dude just disappeared. I don't know where he went. Then,
Was that Sakasim?
no, I trained. That's when I was working in a place called Motion in Space, DJing with my DJ crew. He was bouncing. I didn't even know.
Well,
So,
that was
well,
one
you
night.
can tell the story. It's a funny story. You can tell it. It's
Single night.
hilarious. It wasn't his thing, but I was a nightclub DJ, and then my boys were in it. But that's when I met Judah. And we hit it off. And Judah was like, "Yo, dude, underneath here is a Thai boxing gym, you know?" And this was Andy Russell. I said, "Yeah, I'll come by." And right there, then they moved to Broad Street, right as I was about to get into it. And then that's it. I met Judah, Jeff, Kara, Angel, Rob. There was Wing Chun dudes. It was on Broad Street. But that's when I found it. It was like Soccer Sam, Andy Russell, all of those guys, Angel. And I just knew this was it. And then after that, Judah introduced me to him with some, I don't know, roads in between there, And I knew once I
The
met
fuck
him.
does that mean?
Just a lot of bullshit. Not bullshit, just like paths trying to find people. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to Japan. I knew I wanted to go to USA. I knew I wasn't fighting. I was already in my 30s. But I was like, let me build up a team. Same thing as my DJ team. Let me build a team to do this and find these people, and they can help me get to where I want to go. I don't have to train. I just want to be there. I want to be ringside, I just didn't want to be in the nosebleeds anymore. I went to Fedor and Crow Cop in Vegas with my boys, and I'm like, I ain't fucking sitting up here anymore. You know what I mean? I want to be down there. And I told them, give me a year. And that was it. It was like I kind of started recruiting and seeing what I could do. And then I met Judah, met all his guys, his brother, I love Jeff. And then finally Judah said, yo, there's this dude, Steve Haigh. He's got this team called The Fight Factor. And
He's
he does
a bad
this.
motherfucker.
Yeah, it's real. And he said he's doing this Sambo shit. And my eyes lit up. I'm like, fucking Sambo?
Yeah, but wait, so I remember you at Body Arts.
I was there too. That's what I mean. It was
Yeah,
like,
but that's where you met him.
that's why I first
right?
took the class with him.
Ah.
Yeah.
You said, I know this dude, Steve Haigh, he's open fight. You skipped like 10 years.
I'm sorry, man. That's what I mean. There's so much, dude. When he brought it up, I was like, bro, that's like a lifetime ago. It was literally like 20 years ago, 17 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
it's literally because I'm 28.
More than that.
Longer than
Right.
that.
Because I met you when I was
Body arts and
5 or 4.5.
yeah, probably 5.
Yeah.
And then
I think your dad came and started training with us like 2001, maybe.
yeah,
So how old were you?
28. Well, 2001, I'd be 5. Yeah.
5, yeah.
Wow.
5
You were
years
taller than me
old.
then.
So when you won the Naga, that was 2001?
August 3rd, 2003.
That was 2003.
Yeah. So
that was it.
I'm
sorry.
September. I was 5.5 going on 6. I was almost 6. That next month I would have been 6 years old.
It's wild.
Yeah. So
It is, man.
Yeah.
It feels like it was yesterday, dude. But
Yeah.
that was it. Once I met him, I started training. I'm like, oh, man, I dig this shit. And I was getting housed. Zach, little Joey Bentz, him. I couldn't fuck with anybody. Like, stand-up was my day. That was me. But this grappling shit and the wrestling shit, I was like, man, these guys are killing me. So it's like, I'm going to stick around and just learn it, and
Damn,
just,
bro, you still talk like it's from back then.
What do you mean?
this wrestling shit and grappling shit.
I'm trying to tell you what my mindset was then, going into it. I was an open book.
We've come a long way, Ricky.
Steve, give us your intro to getting up to the Fight Factory.
I think my path was maybe less labored. No, for me, I played football in high school.
At Frankfurt, right?
Quarterback, right?
Yeah, I was a quarterback at Mass Bomb.
Mass Bomb, that's right.
Yeah, I didn't really vibe with the coaching though. So there was like a beef, and we were a kick-ass team the years before me, championship level team, top 3 in the public league in those years in the 90s, mid 90s. However, when I was a senior and then took over as the starter, I mean our team was ass, just small O-line. I mean, some of the lifting numbers I was posting better than some of the offensive linemen, which was, I mean, it was pitiful. So I think midway through the season, coaches saw, like, this is going, there's no chance at anything here. So why not try to build up the team before, that's behind me that would come, they were the juniors. Typical fashion is, the upperclassmen usually start, the seniors. And then, if you're solid and you need the position filled, juniors can step in, certainly. But usually not the case, because usually the seniors kind of have the command there. So, yeah, I mean, football was my life, was absolutely my life. I had no interest in being a fighter of any sort. For me, it was all football. And I was getting involved in track, and then they wanted me to come out and try out for pitcher for baseball in high school. And there was a guy who trained in Sambo, and he said, why don't you just come out? And I did like wrestling around.
Was it Gordon?
Gordon Auld.
Yeah.
It wasn't him.
It wasn't him that
told me
I got you.
to come out. Yeah, it was a guy in high school. A guy, Mike, who was doing Sambo with Gordon, and told me to come out, so I entertained it. I went along. I knew nothing of what it was, and all they kept telling me was, it's the stuff they do in the UFC, and I tuned into the UFC, but I wasn't like a crazy fan of it or anything. So I went along, and then I fell in love with it. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't traditional Sambo. It was just what no-gi is today. I mean, we fucking rolled around in a mat room. This guy, Gordon, was kind of a weird dude on the surface. Apparently, he was a legitimate wrestler in his day, and then went into coaching. He was coaching at high schools in the area. I think he was at Northeast High School. He's since passed now, but he was running this Sambo Academy, and he was going around the world with this team, like competing in different Sambo events, like overseas and stuff. Still, I had no knowledge of really what Sambo was. He was just teaching me all these techniques that, was in Sambo, part of Sambo. But I never actually put the character on. I never was doing like sports style Sambo. Again, it was just more along the lines of what no-gi is today. But he ran a sock store, like a sock and underwear store. So it was extremely fucking sketchy looking.
Tidy whitey.
Yeah,
baby.
like to even think that was a thing, like in the 90s, like this is like 97.
I just, like being a gym owner at that time, you had to have a side hustle. Like you couldn't have relied on the gym almost.
I don't think it was as popular, right?
Yeah.
It was a sock and underwear store.
Did you ever go in it?
So what? I mean, there was a back room to his store that was just a legitimate wrestling room, a padded wrestling room. So that's where the team trained, was in the back of this like sock and underwear store.
Everybody suit up, tidy whiteys and 2 socks. We're going in the back.
So like my first time going there, I'm like thinking like, is this a fucking joke? Like what am I walking into? You're telling me that it's Sambo, it's this legitimate thing, it's a martial art, you know, telling me everything. And then I get to this sock and underwear store, and this Gordon, I mean, had an array of health problems. Like a southern drawl, was a big guy with like a high-pitched voice. And I'm thinking like what the fuck is going on here, man? He was the head trainer there. He was the coach. And had some really good, like, Sambo players at the time. And, I mean, it was kind of at the end of its run, like his team. The guys had all gone off and done other things at that point, so the team kind of disbanded. There was a few guys that hung around still and would come in. And I met some absolute killers that eventually came with me and you know, over to the Fight Factory and stuff. So, long story short, Gordon was closing. He was closing the store down. He owed a bunch of money in taxes or something. Government was putting him into like a work release program. So he was losing it all. Sold me a bunch of mats that, you know, I purchased off him. And I basically started a club with some of the guys still left over from the Sambo Academy and guys that I've met along the way. And we started just a small club in my uncle's basement. And we started competing. We wanted to compete. We had a little team. And I really took a liking to submission grappling. And I was curious, you know, expanding and learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, guys that I've met along the way. We're training with Ricardo Almeida at the time. And, I mean, in those days, to find a purple belt was like...
Yeah.
I mean,
It was like finding a legit assassin. Like, if you were a purple belt in those days, you were a dangerous dude.
It was nothing like the landscape today, where you have, like, all these black belts that, you know, half of them are given belts, and it's just these odd promotions and whatever.
Would you believe that I am now a black belt?
Black belt.
I am now a black belt.
Congrats.
Yeah, choo-choo, as of
Long time coming, huh?
long time coming. I've been a purple belt since I was like fucking
What was
18.
overdue?
I don't know.
You had the skills when you were younger, bro. You did.
Yeah, so, I mean, we kind of started training in the basement. There's a small group of us. Threw a quick little website together. Now, I mean, you got to think this is like 1999, so the internet was just like starting to become a thing, really. Little, you know, makeshift website where people could find us online. Few people did, came out, trained, and then a guy he said, man, I saw these fights posted, and they're looking for fighters. This was in Killeen, Texas. It was Shannon the Cannon Rich, his promotion down there. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, I mean, I never really thought about, like, fighting, but it would be cool to see, like, in a live situation, like, if this works. I've been training for a few years now. Was pretty decent. Had competed a little bit in grappling tournaments. And I took the fight down there, and 2 other guys fought from the team on that card in Killeen, Texas. That was in 2000. And I won quickly with an armbar from the guard. I fought a military guy from down there. Won quickly in under a minute, and I was hooked. I was like, man, it's exhilarating, you know? It was a weird kind of rush that I fell in love with. I felt like I was walking to my death sentence in a way. And then after I won, it was just like, you know, the rush of emotion that you get. So then I started, like, pursuing more fights. And at that time, like, we needed a fight name, you know, so we kind of came up with the Fight Factory. I met Judas Servo, who he had mentioned. He found us through the website. At the time, he was mostly just a Muay Thai fighter. he knew Angel Cartagena, who was the owner of Body Arts Gym, Muay Thai gym here in Philly. And he was just opening at the time. And he said, man, why don't I take you and introduce you to Angel and see maybe if you can kind of move classes down there or start teaching there. So we went, kind of worked into the Body Arts schedule. I think I was teaching there 2 or 3 nights a week. But at the time, there was little interest, really, like in no gi. Everybody was so hungry for the gi at the time because they wanted the promotions, and no one really gave a shit about no gi.
Yeah, MMA was like in the Stone Age at that time. Like, it really, it wasn't popular, really. It wasn't.
Nah, not at all. And especially not in Philly. So that's why a lot of people say that I was one of the first to do it in Philly. You had
You
had
were
really
definitely
good.
one of the first that actually had a legitimate team that had a lot of killers. and
Steve,
had
you're
a
the
lot
George
of
Washington of Philadelphia. Like,
You
you really are.
him.
You
he
are.
is him.
Yeah. In a way, it's even bizarre to say it, you know, to think back and think about how far it's come and what it all is now versus, you know, like I said, it was much different then what it all
It
was.
was NHB. Remember that?
Yeah, people used to call it, before it was coined MMA, people used to call it NHB,
Yeah.
no holds barred.
And there were no rules. Hair pulling, groin striking.
Yeah.
In some of the organizations.
So then, I think Ricky came in probably 2001, probably
And I
right
said, "This
around the
pussy
same
ain't that
time I
tough."
met your dad.
He ain't that tough.
How did you, just like a little side trail from getting to the Fight Factory, how did you meet my father?
So
I actually don't think I know this either.
I don't know it either.
Yeah, I don't think I know how you guys met.
I don't know how your dad initially found us. I can't
Wasn't
recall.
Butchie? Wasn't Butch knew him
So
first?
he knew of my dad. I don't know how well he knew my dad. He knew
Like
of
same
my
towns, like grown up area type of deal?
He knew the same people. He has some connection to one of my father's friends that he knew. So there's a connection there. And he knew of my dad. My dad, of course, had a reputation in Frankfurt for being a tough guy and a fighter and all these things. So, yeah, your father came to the gym about 2001. I think I had just lost to Zach Wakeman in a rematch. I fought Zach Wakeman years ago, and I think it was Mass Destruction. It was for the welterweight title at the time. I beat Zach the first time on a disqualification where he got a warning for like elbowing my leg, and then my nose was busted up pretty good, actually from the previous fight before Zach, so it wasn't all the way healed yet. And then he re-busted my nose, and it was bleeding bad, and we were stuffing stuff up there to try and stop the bleeding, try to remedy the bleeding. He had elbowed me in the face at that point. Elbows were illegal, totally illegal at the time for that promotion. Knocked the stuffing out of my nose, blood, more blood. I couldn't get the bleeding to stop, and because it was a foul, they deemed the fight. They called it. They get in my favor. I didn't really want to accept the belt on those terms, so they said, "Would you be open to the rematch?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Can I let my nose heal, and we'll do it again." So we ended up doing it again in the fall. I lost the rematch, and after that, I think is when your father first came, which was 2001, about the same time I met Ricky as well.
Do you remember the first time you trained with Steve?
I don't. I do remember Body Arts. I remember playing the game God of War, which I'm still a fan of. I played all of them. I love them. But I remember playing that game. Angel had a PS1 or PS2 in the back. It was God of War 1, actually. And he would always be out there training with you guys and boxing. I remember Butchie was always there doing the boxing. But yeah, no, right around that time, I remember him, just primarily in the boxing. And then you guys became close. And And then I started getting brought along with him a decent bit, and then I started getting taught. So as he was learning from you, which I assume, I started getting taught at home. And I think you gave him the mat that we still had for.
Yeah, I think they were the mats that I bought from Gordon, the Sambo coach. I think I gave some to Ricky. I gave some to your father to take home. Because I had these mats as we left the basement. Then I had those mats. And I was already, teaching classes at Body Art, so we were kind of doing our thing there. So I didn't really need the basement space anymore. And plus, we kind of grew out of it. We had a lot more people than I could fit comfortably in the basement.
And
So
Eddie
yeah,
traveled in at what, 19?
What's that?
Eddie came in right around what, 19 at Body.
Eddie came initially when we were at the basement. He went to school with a guy, Chris Blood, who was pretty decent teenager that trained with us. At the time, he was a pretty decent grappler in the teenage division and was winning, teenage super fights and things at the time. He went to school with Eddie, was on the wrestling team with Eddie, and they would have this banter because Eddie, of course, had no knowledge of submission grappling. And the way I understand it is Chris would go in and say that he could submit Eddie, and they had this wager going. Eddie showed up one day, I think it was only just to wrestle with Chris, to prove that Chris couldn't submit him or he could somehow submit Chris. I think he just clutched Chris's throat and ended up submitting him and was like, game over, and it was like Chris was like, wait a minute, that's against the rules, like, and then they were bickering back and forth even about that.
But you were the original MMA coach of Eddie Alvarez, who fights tonight. Yeah. From his first fight.
Yeah, he was a tough, athletic kid, and he had the wrestling, and he was always fighting in the street. And I would say to him, like, why the hell do you waste your time, fighting in the street when you could climb in the ring and like really, really do it and make money. Try to make money. And oddly enough, like it's his career, and is who he is, and made the money he's made. And I can even remember there was a guy, Brian Jackson, who fought from the team down in Atlantic City. I drove down with Eddie and Jamie together in the car, and I can remember on the ride home from that, Eddie saying that he wanted to fight. I can do this. I want to do this. And Jamie being like hell bent against it, and not like, just imagine how different things would be, So after the encounter with Chris in the basement, Eddie disappeared. I didn't see him again. And I thought he was going to hang in and train because I thought it was close enough to wrestling that he would at least take interest. And maybe he did, but he just decided to party and do whatever, 17-year-olds do. And it was probably a year or two later, he called just out of the blue. We were already down at Body Arts at that point, doing classes there. And he called and said, hey, I don't know if you'll remember me. I'm Eddie. I said, yeah, I remember you. I said, where the hell did you go? He said, I want to get back in it, and I want to be serious about it. And shortly after was when we went to the Brian Jackson's fight, and he said he could do it.
So you started basically doing your coaching at Body Arts.
Yeah, formally.
Formally. We traveled from Body Arts to, I believe it was Brad Daddis.
Yeah, so I was kind of doubling up for a little bit. Brad had come in. He was a blue belt, I believe, under Joe Diamond at the time, old jiu-jitsu name in Philly. And he was coming in to train no-gi and MMA. So he had came in and he was with us. Unbeknownst to me, his brother had a karate school or something, and I found out like he was teaching jiu-jitsu. It was like this weird case of like not knowing what was going on with him, and he was teaching this jiu-jitsu program outside of my classes. And people brought it to my attention. I said, like, what can I really do about that. He pays. He's a good student. He's always taking notes. And then he started inviting me over to his place and teaching there as well. So it kind of worked out in the end.
So I remember I started training jiu-jitsu, and I got my purple belt. This is like 2007. And I was like, man, I want to do MMA. And I remember going to Body Arts for the first time, and it was a cool gym. The people were nice, but there was something I didn't like about it. You know what I mean? I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe it was being on 2nd Street in Northern Liberties I didn't like. I remember seeing the Brad Daddis commercial and my mind being blown that there's an MMA gym that has a commercial, you know what I mean, on TV. And then my buddy Matt Blanc told me about the Philadelphia Fight Factory and said Eddie Alvarez trains there. And in high school, Eddie was 2 years older than me, and I remember watching him wrestle because I was on the wrestling team and being like very impressed by him and being like, man, that guy is so freaking good. And when I was a sophomore, Eddie was a senior, and he went up 2 weight classes at the Philadelphia Catholic League Championship, and he pinned the LaSalle kid who had a Superman tattoo on his shoulder. And I remember this kid was like undefeated too. He's a 160 pounder. Eddie was like a 145 pounder. And Eddie smoked him. So I remember the first time going to the Fight Factory, I remember parking my car in Fishtown and walking up the steps, and the first person I saw was your wife, Michelle, who would always sit in the office on the computer. And I remember introducing myself and telling her I want to train, I want to learn how to fight. And then seeing Steve, and you know like Steve is, like, he's a very nice person, but he's not like, hey, what's going on, man? Welcome to the gym. And I remember, yeah, he's very like, yeah, like, what's up? Okay, cool. Yeah, class starts in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was something about the vibe there. It was something about the fact that you and Michelle ran it, which I thought was really cool. And the group of people, I mean, you had Eddie Alvarez there, and you had neighborhood people who were tough. Ricky Lee was one of the trainers. I just thought Ricky was cool when I walked in there, and I'm like, this guy just walks in and holds pads for people and then leaves. And he always wears that hat.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw you take that hat off, it was like weird for me. Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm bald.
People used to think it was surgically attached.
Yeah, like he always had that hat on. And
Rocking it since a kid.
My shit went bald quick.
Happens.
My shit was dusty by the time I was like 26.
I'm glad I look like the golden child if I was bald, bro. What a porn stash.
he did always have the little stash.
It's the only thing that makes me look kind of age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's gonna be gone soon. We'll see.
But the vibe there was awesome. And you know what else I loved about the Fight Factory was I would always hear, don't go to the Fight Factory because they just try to beat you up the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, that was the thing that was promoted, that got around. Almost, we had like this reputation of like being like shoot box or something, you know, like street thugs that were just gonna kick the shit out of you. Like they're not technical guys, and I mean, which is why, like, I don't even know how that developed really. I think maybe just having a competition first like mindset, you know, where other gyms didn't operate the same way. And I was very much like having a mixed sort of idea of things before people were mixing things, you know. Back then it was like, I'm jiu-jitsu, I'm a wrestler, I'm a boxer, I'm a kickboxer. But mixing them was like, no way, you know. Like everyone was so proud to be that whatever discipline, you know. And they wanted to flex that discipline whenever they got the chance.
I think it was Judah kicking people in the head.
Yeah.
Like the nicest guy ever, too. He would just kick you.
Is this your first day?
All right.
Welcome. But he didn't do the thing about you was like there was never ill will. He's a martial artist. Get out of here. To us, maybe.
He was very friendly about it.
Not to people. Yeah.
Dude, he when he pulled the chick's eyebrow or eyelashes
remember that?
out with his toes.
You pulled her
mean,
what?
Yeah,
Eyelashes?
He like teeped the girl
If
in
you
the
ever
face.
see someone without eyelashes, it's a bizarre look. It-
If
you-
they have fake ones. Oh, he pulled a real eyelash.
like her eyelashes were gone,
oh wow.
all of them.
So he
like,
straight up
in
toothed
one eye.
this shit right in their mouth.
She just returned from Thailand, and she was doing like a fat camp over there. You know, like you go, you lose weight, you turn into heat, and it's like more cardio based Muay Thai. It's not like, hey, get in the ring Muay Thai. She came back and was kind of like fired up, like she wanted to spar, and she was getting mad that like guys, like pro fighters, weren't like, she didn't feel like it was truthful. She didn't feel like they were being honest about sparring. They were going lighter than she wanted, and so it started to annoy me because she kept, kind of looking over at me like, get me someone that's gonna attack. I got just a guy, Judah, because I mean he would do it and not even mean to do it. And now, like, you okay, yeah, have at it. Like, Judah will go harder with you if you want to go harder.
Yeah, he was the first person to kick me in the head.
And he, like, teep kicked her right in her face and, like, toes all in her eye and,
Eyelash ripped off. I was there that day.
like,
That's crazy. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that. I've never heard of that. Yeah, I remember a lot of like good brawl. Mike was his last name Johnson.
Mike Johnson, yeah,
Yeah,
ATT.
I remember him swinging heat. Still see Mike sometimes,
Yeah.
time to time. It's good to see him, but
he was a character in those days, man.
You know what I mean?
I haven't seen him in a long time, but he was just like,
He's in Philly all the time. We got to hang out with him.
yeah, he's come watch. He sparred with us a few. Yeah, I haven't sparred him, but he's,
has he gotten better?
He's still the same Mike. Like, he doesn't get it. Like, let's just go light, and then all of a sudden you have
Yeah.
a bloody nose, and you're like,
Yeah.
Mike, what this?
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sounds about
Everybody
right.
wanted to win.
I haven't gotten to go with him yet. I haven't gotten to go. He's been ducking me, so Mike, when you watch this, come get it. No, Mike's cool. I remember Mike. I remember Crow,
Oh, yeah, Crow.
Juicehead Crow. I don't remember if he was on Juice or not. I just remember.
Oh
him
yeah,
having
no,
some wavy
he
hair.
absolutely was.
Crow's own life, baby.
He
Delvicio, Joey Delvicio.
Yeah.
Remember seeing him.
Yeah. He was training. I was helping him out for a little bit in my basement.
I actually, you know what? Yeah, sure.
So you guys really only experienced like the second wave of the Fight Factory guys, because the first team, I mean, you had Pierre Guillet, who started Fight Factory with me, who moved to England, got married in England, started a family. There was Harry Dales, who was one of the original guys. Judah came in like right around that time with us at the basement. Shortly after, we kind of agreed on a name.
The basement stories are awesome, though, Steve.
Yeah. There was Danny Hughes, who was at the basement. Chris
Bear.
Blood, who I
Bear?
mentioned. Yeah, Bear.
That man was DVD John and him. That used to crack me up. It didn't make sense for them to be sparring, but they would spar. It was fun.
No, I mean, it didn't make sense.
Say, I love DVD John. It's
We
my
love
boy.
we love John.
Love John.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Gotta see.
I wanted to go back to the Joey Delvicio because we've been cool, but I had a little bump in the road, and I don't care to air it, but we had a little bump in the road because of obviously me and my father's falling out and things like that. And he actually said some things that I didn't like, which is fine. You could say you can have your opinion, but I wind up seeing him. I was digging pools and like laying pipe and shit. I laid a pipe, but we did. Immaturity, got to do it. But
It's
yeah,
not how it sounds.
You're
I was-
27, 6.
yeah, I was doing. We were doing like in-ground pools and whatnot, and I wound up seeing him at a bakery, and then I was like, "Oh, like I heard you say what about this and that." I was like, "It's crazy because you don't know shit." And I remember being like real hostile, but since then we've been cool. I haven't seen him for a while or heard from him in a while, but I do remember him being an athletic freak.
Reached out to my show.
Yeah.
Maybe like last month after the holidays.
I remember him being an athletic freak, man. He could kick hard as hell. Yeah, I remember seeing you two drill actually.
Yeah.
He tells a story. It's better than I tell. He said I was teaching the Thai boxing class, and as I was walking by, he just kicked me as hard as he could in the leg, and he's like, "Oh my God, this fucking dude! I just kicked this dude, and he just walked by me." And I was like, "Well, you kicked hard, but I kind of lifted my leg when I was moving. I saw it coming." But he was like, "That's what really made me believe this is possible. That this little dude took my kick, and I know, and he kicks hard.
Were
Like,
you there the first time he came into the gym?
Yeah, he came with a friend of mine, Gary.
He came with a few guys.
He came with.
They were all.
They were all male strippers,
They
right?
were all fucking dancers.
They were strippers and bouncers.
Yeah.
Carlos,
They were-
what's up, Carlos? Yeah.
They were. Oh my god.
Yeah. They were big dudes.
Wait, so to paint this picture to people watching, the Fight Factory, you'd have a guy like DVD John who's like in his late 40s,
A dad.
recovering in recovery, right? And he would spar people. You'd have Eddie Alvarez.
He lived for it. I mean, he was a guy who was older who was not going to compete. So coming in on Saturday morning and getting the shit beat out of him by a guy like Eddie meant the world to him.
Yeah, he loved it.
He
He loved
absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
If Eddie gave him a black eye.
Yeah. He was proud of it to show people at work the next day at the water department.
Wilson Hayes, another one. Like he would just go so ridiculously hard. Like he hated. Like Wilson owed him money. It was like,
Yeah.
why? He's a pro fighter, you know. Like I gotta give it to him.
Were you there that day? He like clinches Wilson and starts kneeing him, and then he jumped guard.
No.
He jumped guard on Wilson.
He clinched Wilson, and then he kind of looked over at us like,
Smile.
and we're all going like, no, don't you fucking knee him. Like, what are you doing, you maniac?
No, I just remember Bear and DVD John getting into it a lot, and like somebody getting cut. I think it was John getting cut. I know they would get into it a lot. My dad was always yelling at Bear, from what I remember, talking shit to him, and you know, even speaking of him, some of the funny shit that I seen him do, it was just absolutely terrible. But he always had the handicap, you know. He always had that bitch mode in him where he would be like, "Oh, you can't hit me to the body, my back." But then he'd sneak you with something.
You had to go light against him, but he could go as hard as he wanted to go.
Yeah. But I remember all.
I was kind of always at odds with him, and we almost got into a fight at the basement. No, Danny Bear.
Was this the drill?
And he kind of floated in and out. I need him in the leg, and he felt like it was too hard or something. Like I cheap shotted him. It was a knee in the thigh. It was like, dude, you're 300 pounds. Like, fucking get it together. I'm fucking $180. You know what I mean? Like, so he like slammed his gloves off, and he's like, fucking cheap. You know, he's yelling at me that I cheap shot him. I said, what are you talking about, man? He's still going on. So finally, I just had enough of it. I said, well, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go outside and, like, really fight? If that's what you want to do, like, let's go do it. I said, but, you know, after that, we're not friends. Fucking take your shit and get the hell out of here. Pierre got between us and, you know, was trying to stop it.
So in terms of the Fight Factory, though, because we'll circle around to all the funny shit. But in terms of the Fight Factory, when did you? I actually don't know this either, but I know that it was hard for you to stay in the gym because all the negativity and things of people. I know there was a lot of people that just like wanted to do their own thing inside of your gym and all that. So when did you lose the love for the gym? Was it a money thing, or was it just you were burnt the fuck out and you were tired of doing it? How did Fight Factory come to an end?
It started to be probably a combination of all of it, I think, at one point or another. It just so happened I was in school. I was in college for art. Yeah, I was in University of Arts for illustration. It just so happened that at the same time, the team was probably like at its pinnacle as far as like competitors and you know, guys traveling for fights, bigger fights that were paying decent and things like that. And some guys like on the cusp of like making this their living. So it's like I'm doing that, and I didn't really have many people that could step in and teach. Yeah. I had guys there that were totally capable of teaching, but they were interested in competing. They didn't want to also teach, you know? So that made it difficult. The fact that we kind of branded ourselves, I was always, again, competition first. I didn't really go into it to have the idea of running a business. I thought, like, he was there when I went and signed the lease and everything. And we were trying to figure out how many people were on the team that could just pay the monthly dues. I mean, it was like a club mentality. And if I had it to do over again, it wouldn't be that way. So it was trying to figure out that balance of like competition team versus running a gym, you know. No one gave me the blueprint. I'm trying to make all this work as I'm living it, you know, which is a very hard thing to do, especially when you don't have resources and finances and you're worrying about passing school. And
I look at it as like buying Bitcoin in like 2010. Like I remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin, I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't know really what you had, like the amount of greatness and potential in that room looking back on it, and then seeing how the neighborhood has totally, I mean, you remember what it was like, what Fishtown was like at that time?
yeah, we kind of missed the boat in terms of development. I mean, what it is now, you go through Fishtown. I mean, he still lives there. He can attest to what it is now.
It's like being on the set of a Universal Studios movie. It's
Yeah, I mean, we were probably 10 years too early, you know, for the development boom and things like that kind of capitalize on it. And I was even looking at the end of when we were talking about closing, I thought, well, maybe if I could just move to a street that had more traffic. And I was looking on the same block where Balance is now, literally maybe 10 stores away from where Balance is. And I thought, maybe if I'm just on Frankfurt Ave, you know, it'll be more traffic and more visible and people don't have to like find us. I think one of the other things that worked against us was the location, the interior location, because we were on the second floor and we had old wooden steps. And so everyone that came in had to walk up those steps. You get to the top. I mean, people can hear you coming in the door. They hear you walking up the steps. It's loud. It's creaky. You get to the top, and you have like 20 guys all staring at you. And you're like, fuck. You know, like,
Yeah,
what did I just walk
That's a very
into?
like subtle feeling too. Like a lot of people would be like, "Ah, why does that fucking matter?" But when you're new to a gym and you're in a gym like that, where there are competitors more than there are hobbyists, yeah.
I only learned this after the fact. I only saw this perspective after the fact. I met a guy, Dan, who trained at Body Arts, and he said, I came to your gym. I said, really? I said, did you talk to me? No, there's someone else that was there. He said, man, it was intimidating. He said, I got to the top of the steps, and all these guys were just looking at me like fresh meat, you know, like kind of thing. And that wasn't the vibe at the gym at all. I think people were just genuinely curious, like, who's coming up the train kind of thing. It wasn't like, hey, we want to kick the shit out of you. That wasn't the energy that I ever brought. And I tried to stamp that out if it ever did creep in. And at times it did creep in. And I never allowed that because that's never what I wanted, for the vibe to be in the training room. And I just think it was the old creaky wooden stairs, and people just, are gonna look. It's just, human nature.
So Fight Factory closes up. You're done with it. You graduate school. You go. You do your art stuff and whatever. Any part of you misses being a coach? Or
Yeah,
any part of you that wished you still had a gym or opened a gym?
Definitely. There are elements I miss at times. I think for a relationship to work, you need respect, you need loyalty, and you need trust. Those three things. If one of those three things starts to erode, the relationship is going to fall apart. It can't exist at that point. And I think a lot of that started to happen towards the end. Like, people started to not trust in what I was telling them. They were going other places and seeking these other training rooms or other coaching or whatever it is, because the information they were given was new, or the manager was in their ear and telling them, hey, do this, and do this. Although, you've come this far with this information, but now you're listening to this guy who's motivated by money and all these other things. I'm not motivated by money. Again, like, I just wanted the competition team. I wanted the acclaim. I wanted to have just a solid competition team that we could go against against anyone. Like, that was the vision in my head. So that started to happen a bit with a few different people. And then it was, it started to become a trust thing maybe on my end. I started to get kind of untrusting. And there was also the respect thing, too, that I think started to lose, just in the way that, the rules I had in place in there. And again, I was doing this all myself. My wife was helping me. Of course, she had a day job and then was kind of jumping in. And that's another part, I think, where we failed, is because no one else saw that end of it. When the gym door closed and we went home, the problems came home with us. And then we were sitting there eating together, watching TV, and we're talking about problems at the gym. It just never turned off. And I think that's, like you mentioned, I think that's where the burnout, starts to happen. But I think if the conditions were right, I think it could totally exist again. If, being a coach and doing that.
Would you consider running a gym ever again, Steve?
I think if the conditions were right, and I had someone to kind of, be in it full time.
And you could fully commit to just that. Yeah.
And I could, of course. Ricky was going through a tough time in his life at the time. Not many people knew about. He was dealing with his own stuff, and he was still there to hold pads for people. And fighters are very dependent. They're needy. They don't give back the way they take a lot of the time. I need pad holding. I need this. I need this. I need this. Ricky's there for them. The guys never gave Ricky a dime for any of that. And it started to be expected. Like, yo, you're going to, it's like, hold on, dude. I got stuff I have going
I'm volunteering, and you're acting like I work for
exactly.
you.
Yeah. I'll be honest, it was my fault, like, in a little bit, because I didn't even tell anybody that I wasn't getting paid or anything. So fighter over here would watch me hold 12 rounds right here and then wonder why I'm not holding pads. And it's like, dude, I'm doing this for free. This is, they asked me, you didn't ask, and I would have did it for anybody. And I went home hurting like a motherfucker. Like, it was bad.
And I want both of you,
Still love it.
yeah, and I want both of you guys to know, you guys gave me the blueprint in order to help Joey in the beginning part of his career, where it's like, dude, I have to be like a step that he literally steps on to get to where he needs to go. Like, what am I gonna do? Charge this kid, you know what I mean? Like, oh, now you made $500 on your first fight. Well, I'm gonna need $250 of it. It's like, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, getting somebody off of the ground. And like, honestly, Steve, and I've always wanted to tell you this, and maybe I have, but like, being a part of Joey's life, and from all the stories you told me, like how good of a kid Joey always was, and there were parts of my life where I had to help Joey, but I was like, shit, man, like, I got a family now, I have other things, and I would always think back to the times at the gym where you and Michelle would tell me about Joey, and it's like, he was worth it, you know what I mean? Like, if you can get this kid off of the ground, he's going to do something amazing. And, I mean, next fight, March 29th, Mexico City, 4-1 in the UFC with incredible knockouts. Dana White telling people, if you want to get in the UFC, be Joe Pyfer. And you guys knew that from – it is. And you guys knew it from day one.
Yeah. I don't think it could have turned out any other way. From the, such a young age, he was there, just seeing these things and having these conversations and watching and absorbing all of that at such a young age in that training room.
It's so rare.
At that time with guys that were mixing it. Again, to understand the time I'm speaking of, not, that wasn't happening outside of our place in the area. I can remember going to England and teaching the seminars there in 2003 that Pierre kind of hooked me up with when I was over there. And seeing how you had judo players and you had kickboxers but no one, they were just totally clueless when it came to mixing it. And they didn't understand the dynamics punching in MMA isn't boxing. Wrestling in MMA isn't wrestling. You're never going to have a vertical surface in a wrestling match. It's not the same. Yeah. The whole dynamic shifts. To understand that, you know, and take that over there and explain that to them and get them to all kind of change their thinking. Like, you're right, it's not. You know, what works in one sport. I mean, I think MMA is has long been at a pace now where it's his own thing. You no longer even have to make silly comparisons like that, you know.
I know we're getting like far into the podcast, and there's something that I really wanted to do before we get lost or it ends. Ricky, I got a question for you, because this bothered me so bad, and you talked about it earlier. So during the riots in Philadelphia, there was a group of people in Fishtown. You're born and raised in Fishtown, still live in Fishtown. That's your neighborhood. You love it. Like you said, the reason why you got into martial arts, you're half Chinese. You got picked on.
Irish, and German. Yeah.
Chinese, Irish, and German. You got picked on a lot. And I remember when people would try to, like,
He still does.
Yo,
It's true. It's not. I mean,
when people would try to fuck with Ricky at the gym, and they would try to crack jokes about him being Chinese, like and I would see it, like, I'm like, yo, don't. And I never said anything, like, I'd never goof on Ricky for that, because I could tell by the way he reacted. When I saw you in that group and get labeled a white nationalist, it really did blow my mind. And yeah. That's right. It was like Italian mobsters are walking around Fishtown.
Well, it's the hat, I think, that.
yeah, ridiculous. And what's funny is, like, the place we were standing in front of, we have a black friend who was in the barbershop. That's who we were really protecting. No one knows that story, but anyway, who cares? The video you see was the cops were concerned there was too many people down this end of the street, and we're like, can everybody just go this way? And
So you're all walking.
And so I just grabbed, like, the 4 friends I was with, 5 or whatever. I'm like, let's go. We're getting out of here. I don't want to be involved in this. And I swear to God, we weren't even back to Bobby's house in 2 seconds. I got text messages from Vegas, Vancouver, like, people like, yo, dude, what's going on? Is this you? And I made it on this site. There was like 1 million people on the site, and it said Italian white nationalists take over their neighborhood, and it's me. And I'm like, you don't see the picture?
And the funniest part of it is you're wearing that hat, and you were wearing like the Fight Factory jumpsuit too, with like
probably.
You had like the track jacket on and like the track pants too.
I don't even remember, to be honest. But
You had a spiked bat in your hand, too, at one point.
You had a mace.
don't ever bring weapons.
I never knew that. I never heard of it.
You don't remember seeing that?
Nah, I never saw it.
Oh, I'm like a whirlwind. Like, I was like a racist. I was the
Yeah, it was
and
like
luckily,
right during the lockdowns.
It's T-Fish, Sandra Kim, I owe you. Trust me, it's coming. They had my back, and they were just like,
Doorman T-Fish?
Yeah, it's my
Yeah,
boy.
T-Fish is
we
the
go
man.
back forever. And
It
he's
was
like,
all that, like, the riot stuff that,
yeah,
that like, during lockdown.
He's the only one that really spoke, Sandra did, and they were just like, this is a fucking guy been fighting for my neighborhood and protecting the neighborhood from all kinds of assholes. It's like, and T-Fish is like, I know this dude forever. Yeah. So luckily, but it was the silent voices. Like, no one, the ones I expected to, like, say something, you know, and not really. I don't get anybody to fight for me. But it was just like, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. And I stayed on Facebook for a while, and I just deleted, and don't think for 1 second that I deleted Facebook because of that shit. It was all the lies and the politics and everything that I learned during COVID, and then people arguing over dumb shit. Once upon a time in the nightlife industry, it didn't matter what religion, what color, what creed, if you were gay, straight. I knew transsexuals before that shit was cool. I still know them, you know what I mean? But now it's just like jammed in your face. It's like me or go fuck yourself, kind of like. And it was just like, yo, man, gotta be cool. You can't just go into every situation screaming in someone's face like, you're gonna have it my way or that's it. It's just like, you can't do that. Once I knew it happened to me, man, I was just like, holy fuck. Yeah. It really blew my mind. And people were hitting me up on Facebook, hey man, why you come meet me here? And at the time I was broken and I was going through a lot of shit. I was like, all right, I will come over there by myself, and I'm not coming to fight you. You're gonna meet me. We're gonna have a conversation. Well, in my head, that's the way I would want to present it, you know?
Well, this is
But it
the
was
era that you've entered the era of social media fucking
Yeah.
keyboard warriors.
Yeah. And as a joke, I saw the girl doing it. I saw this girl videotaping, just standing in the middle of the street, and joking to my friends as we turned the corner. I'm like, oh, we'll be on the news. We're gonna be in the news in like an hour. And we got back to the house, and everyone's, yo, bro, yo, even Pat came to the house. I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on? What's this shit I see? And I was like, do you really fucking believe that shit, dude?
Pat from Fight Factory?
Yeah.
Our Asian brother?
Yeah, Pat Ton.
I love Pat.
Yeah,
I remember I used to train with Pat a
Me
lot
too.
at
That's
Fight
the man.
But
Factory.
to even question, like all my real friends knew, like my boy from Damon out from, I haven't seen him in forever. Even he reached out to me. He was like, yo, bro, what the fuck's going on? This is a joke. Like, what's going on? And hey, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, but I didn't give a fuck. Cancel me. Who cares?
Well, that's the power of the social media now. And now being in the UFC, even myself, dealing with, you know, I lost to a 17 UFC fight veteran in Jack Hermanson. Nobody gives a fuck. I had walking pneumonia the entire camp. I had 2 MRSA spots, 2 weeks out, antibiotics, whatever. I didn't have the perfect camp. Went in, I lost. And I got this whole 100,000 whatever fucking following, and then it's like out of them, all these people after I lost were like, kill yourself, you're a piece of shit, you suck, you're a fraud check, Dana White privilege, all. It was like, yo, that's fucking crazy. This shit didn't exist at Fight Factory. It wasn't popular. It wasn't anything anybody. But now everybody's opinion. I have to say that's the only part. I don't even say I don't like it now, but it's definitely social media is definitely a little bit overpowering at times. And then if you're a weak person and you don't know how to deal with it, it'll definitely cripple you. Yeah.
I got bullied by worse people than you ever meet.
I enjoy it now.
I
though.
got a Nazi. I got a white supremacist flyer in my door. Wait, yeah, I got it. I got it in my house. I'm not even joking. I was just
saved
like,
it?
Yeah, I got the phone number and all.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like I was so tempted to call it. And like, are these people just walking around my neighborhood now? This is scary. This is a weird time. It's like, I think it's what it is. It's like the bully mentality. If you don't like what I like, let me get a bunch of my friends on here. Did you see what he did? Did you see what she did? How about we hate them for that? Let's
And the
hate them for
virtue
that.
signaling, it's like how people nowadays feel like they accomplish something by virtue
By
signaling.
hurting somebody else, and it's like, man, I promise that shit's going to come back to you, and when it comes back to you, you're not going to have friends. And if you can't stand on your own 2 feet, you're
Come
done.
on, that's your white privilege show.
So
The last person that had ever white privilege, like ever. Ever. I've never been mistaken for white in my life.
Is this why you intentionally sought out my father to get advice from him the last time you had texted him?
Are we allowed to talk about that, Ricky?
You can talk whatever. Listen, like I said, I'm an open
Can you
book.
explain what happened in
I
that?
don't lie.
That's my favorite Ricky Lee
Because
story.
I know that you accidentally thought it was me.
Not accidentally. I had your number saved as you. I thought it was you. And when you broke your arm, like, the hardest part for me and all this shit, believe it or not, holding pads for you two, I could probably do it right now and it wouldn't be bad. It's sitting ringside or sitting home watching you guys fight because I actually fucking cared. That's what I was trying to tell Eddie and Zach, but I didn't know how to convey it then. I didn't know how to say, do they care about you as much as me? Because I don't fucking think so. You got keys to their house? You know what I mean? Everyone had keys to my house.
I mean, it's definitely more
Everyone.
nerve-wracking, I think, as a coach. I mean,
As a friend, I
you
didn't
know.
even look at anybody's coach.
You've coached. With you understand, hey, I'm going to go, and if I make the mistake, it's on me, right? But, like, if I give you a bit of advice and you go and fail because of that shit that I told you, like, man, that weighs so heavy on you, and you're sitting ringside and stuff is happening, and you're going to make snap judgments on what's happening, and it's all unfolding. You get thousands of people all screaming in your ear, and
And I'm an old fart. Like
Yeah.
it felt like you were like my kid or like my younger brother in there, and it was like, oh, watching you get hit or hurt, and I can't jump in like I'm normal. Like that's what we did in it back in the day. You jumped in. It was like
Yeah,
to
it
watch is
was that moment because obviously I'm talking to two people that have seen me in the sport longer than anybody, longer than Sam, and you know, again, like well, I said I was grateful, but one of the things that I was grateful for to come full circle with, you know, obviously leading up to that moment was, through all the things that I was going through with my home life, it was my escape was coming to the Fight Factory, seeing Steve, seeing Eddie, and him having like always a smile and excited, like busting my balls, us joking, all those things. Like I was allowed to be
Smiling?
a
Did you say
kid in the
smiling?
gym.
Well, it's
I mean, with me.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm breaking balls.
Yeah, but I got you.
It
But,
was there. You just you
Him
yeah,
smiling.
nah, I mean,
To you were a kid.
I remember us making
His
fun of
his
each other.
vision
a lot.
is compromised. He can't.
No,
couldn't see the smile.
Ricky's gonna get mad.
yeah, you're not,
But yeah, but I
I love
do.
it now. It's
I
like-
remember coming to the gym and being excited to see you and Eddie and you know you were always the voice of reason through in ways that maybe you know and maybe you didn't know, but that you know he was never somebody. My father, I'm talking about. He was never somebody that I could go to confide in. I couldn't tell him anything I was bothered by or I was hurt or if I was sad or suicidal throughout my life. All those things that I did struggle with. And going to the Fight Factory and going to Body Arts and seeing you and seeing Eddie and being a part of those things, it kept me going. Like I still had the love for the sport because of people like him. And seeing people like you and seeing like Zach McCoskey and all these, and even Sam. So
Yeah, I think for me, I think you were special in a way that we didn't have many kids around. We started a kids program later, where Tara LaRosa was teaching. Sam, I think you were teaching. You were teaching them?
first, yeah.
Yeah, you were teaching them. Tara didn't last long. She called them ADD kids or something.
Oh, Tara.
Yeah. No, but so you were around. You were younger, and again, you were absorbing that. And I love the fact that you were so involved. And looking back, like, man, some of the shit that your dad would say or do, just like, I mean, it bothered me then, but looking back, having my own kids now and giving them direction and things like that, I always tried to step in and kind of be that voice of reason, with you and your father, and tried to, like, kind of, come here, Joe, like, I don't know if you remember that
Naga.
the Naga, where
I was 13
coached
going
you.
against 16-year-olds.
Your dad wanted to sandbag you and win another kids division, and I had an argument with your dad. I said, "Come on, man, he's going to be 14 in 3 months."
Joe was
like-
12 for like 4 years straight. I feel like.
And I said, "What is it going to do for him to win another kids division? So you could parade around with the belt or samurai sword or whatever the hell it was." And he said, "Oh, well, the guy's got a beard." When the fuck has a beard ever won a grappling match? Who cares? It was a 17-year-old kid or something that was in it. Well, I think you ended up facing in the final or something, your final match. You took, what, third in it? Took third, and that probably meant more to you that you could hang
I was
with
13
those
hanging with
kids.
almost an 18-year-old.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
And what, beating up on like 10-year-olds? Like, come on, what would that have done for you? I think it challenged you in a way that was far better than winning just another kids division. And he was pissed, man. He was crying. I thought we were going to get in the fight outside. He was so pissed with me. Tears rolling off his cheek. And then I grabbed the medal and I took it up to him. I said, "Yo, your kid took third if you give a shit." And I kind of threw it in his lap. He was sitting way at the top of the arena. And I said, who is this really for, man? Like, what are you doing? Who is it really for?
Yeah, it was never good enough. If I won, I beat tomato cans.
Well, there was the sparring session,
at Fight Factory against
the
that kid.
impromptu sparring session that you were placed in. I don't even know how that came about. I feel like I was talking. I turned around and you were what was the kid's name? Austin from the neighborhood.
He's a tough street kid, yeah.
Yeah, he was a year or two older than Joey, and
Yeah, he's the one. Yeah, that went to jail. Yeah.
Yeah, the kid can scrap.
Joey sparring him. His dad's coaching him. Austin doesn't have anyone, which I didn't mind that they were sparring. It was just like
I was getting my head beat in.
it was like after it was like no one else was doing it. You guys were the only ones on the mat, and I'm like, who orchestrated this? Like, who put this together? I said, I think I stopped it. I said, "Yo, chill. You go over there. You go over there. Joe, can I see you outside? And we went outside. I'm like, what the fuck you doing, dude? Like, I'm trying to run a business here, and
You're trying to fight. You're trying to get your son to get in the fight.
you're trying to get your son into a fight with an older kid who's already has a shit ton of street fights that I'm trying to get on a different path. I'm trying to get this kid Austin to train and be a martial artist and leave the street shit alone. And we couldn't reach him. He ended up fucking
It happens.
disappearing.
The
And
neighborhood gets a lot of people like that.
then Eddie
I'll say
came
I'm
out, and Eddie was talking to him out front. We're talking to him out front, and to see him getting angry about that, like that we shut it down, and he's embarrassing me. I said, oh, he's embarrassing you. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, I mean, that kid could punch. I remember I was getting my shit rocked, but I was still fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was, he was fucking teeing off on my shit. I remember it wasn't it wasn't a very constructive sparring session.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was working against the very thing I'm trying to do with Austin. It was like I'm telling him to not do that. I'm telling him to be more reserved and focus on martial arts and then throw him into a sparring fight, the shit that I'm trying to pull him away from doing.
Yeah, I mean, he had his way, but like I said, it was, if I won, I beat nobody, and if I lost, I was an embarrassment and a disgrace to be his kid and things like that. But that is what it is. Like, but coming full circle, having stayed in it, having run away from him to get away, like I needed to get away from him, and I got away from him. Not under the best circumstances, but I got away from him, and that's all I cared about. And then once I did that, finally, I still didn't have a strength coach. I still didn't have like a real, like I was training out of balance, but it's not a real MMA gym. It's a very good jiu-jitsu gym, but it's not an MMA gym. It does not have an MMA program. It doesn't have MMA coaches. A lot of them stepped up, tried to help with it. They let us train there for a while just because they wanted to see us make it, So Rick and Phil were always stellar guys, good people, love them. Still see, and talk to Rick pretty frequent. And but I fast forward, we get to the contender. Obviously, I finally got Sam with his busy schedule and who he was doing his own thing, trying to raise a family and working 2 jobs. Finally got him on board. I used to beg him, and he tested me. Made me show up places at 5 a.m. Who the fuck trains at 5 a.m.? But it's like, how bad are you going to do it? And I would show up, and I stood the test of time that this is what my whole life was, and I didn't know what else the fuck I was going to do with myself. I didn't see myself as an office worker. I didn't see myself in school. I didn't think I was that smart, and we stuck with it. But then to get to that moment, and then, the fight's going my way until it's not, it fucking broke my heart. Back in the suit.
Career-ending injury.
Almost a career-ending injury. Had I not gotten the second surgery, I wouldn't have been a fighter. But in that moment, to come back to the type of person that he was, he sent me a picture of when I landed when he mat returned me, and my arm was broke backwards, and he was like, "Yeah, I told you as soon as you fought somebody real, like face down, ass up, just like I said, you're not," like a bunch of other shit. Said a lot of nasty shit, but it's like that man always took every failure as a moment to kick me right in the fucking teeth.
That would have been a chance to kind of take the high road
It could have been a chance, but
turn it around and be something better.
Yeah, challenging me to fight him and all the. It's like, brother, like, do you remember what he used to say his boxing record was?
It was something absurd.
115 and 4.
It was something absurd.
My man is the only fucking dude that I've ever heard tell a lie that many times where he believes it. You can't look this motherfucker up at any sanctioned bouts of anything commissioned, nothing.
They were smoker. They were gym bouts.
Against, what, are you counting your fucking gym wars? I don't understand, but yeah, no, that was, I think that was like the final straw for me. It was hard too because, not having the guy.
I think I questioned him the one time on it. Like, what can you look it up? Where are some of the bouts? And it was just like some bullshit answer.
Oh, they weren't keeping track back then.
There wasn't no internet back then, kind of thing.
But they have all fucking Floyd Mayweather's, Roy Jones Jr. Like he's the same age group. Mike Tyson. It's crazy, but.
But I forgot that the question you asked was what happened. Oh, I totally forgot. We went off the tangent, but
yeah.
You broke your arm.
Yeah.
And right away, like I said, that makes me sick. And I was right. A broken arm wasn't a knockout or a choke.
Yeah.
Right away, I thought, shit,
Freak
this
accident.
could be it. This
Yeah.
could fucking be it. And right away, I'm like, I know he's not going to answer me. We haven't spoken, whatever. But I just want to.
I would have answered.
No, I'm saying, like, I want to let him know I still care. And dude, this ain't shit. If your arm's not that messed up, this is just a step. Don't worry about it. You're fine. It was him. I didn't know it was him. And he said something like, well, no matter what I do, I don't think my dad's going to be proud of you or whatever. And I said, fuck your dad or something of that nature. But not like, fuck him, he's a piece of shit. More
So
like,
he posed as me.
yeah, man. It fucking bothered me. It broke my heart. I'm like, what are you lying to me for? I didn't do anything to you. I let you stay in my house, bro. Like,
Yeah.
my door's open to all you cats. You got keys to my home.
He stayed at your house when he had his back surgery,
Yeah, the
and
key to
him
my
and my
house.
mom were going through.
I can name all of them, but I don't.
Because I
put
threw him out of
shit.
my house.
Because he was a bullshitter.
But it's like, but
Because he was
But why
insulting
would you,
my
why
wife.
would you
and I
set me
told him
up
he had a roll.
to hear my real truth? Just ask me my real truth. Did you think I was full of shit when you met me? You know I'm an open book. And if you're fat, sorry, I know people don't like it, but if you're fat, I'm not going to say, oh, the dress is fat. And the dresses make you look fat. You're fat. It's like, that's how I am. It's always been my way. So when he did that to me, it just blew my mind. I'm like, what the fuck is going? And I texted him right away, like, what? Do you still talk to Boxer Joe? Because I've been out of the scene. I wasn't even talking to him that much because I was taking care of a lot of shit. And I'm like, I texted Joey to say, man, I hope everything is well. I hope your health is good. And he like turned it around, and it really freaked me out. And from that point, I was just like, listen, man, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but. And then he tells me about the abuse and all this shit, and I'm still disgusted. I'm not even lying. I'm disgusted sitting here even talking about it because it's like, bro, you slept right next to me, not like next to me, but like I had a bed right here. I gave you my couch or vice versa. Your back was all messed up, and you tried to be slimy and text me like that. It's so weird.
You know, it is funny. I'm not upset about anything that I'm talking about, which is why I'm talking about it. I mean, like, I'm so far forgiven the past for everything. Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm here because of everything and because of the people I got to meet. I got to meet you guys and him, and I've met so many good people, man. And I can't be upset at the past that I had because it's what's, I think, matured me when I need to be mature. It's allowed me to scope out characters a lot better than I think a lot of general people. Because I've had the slime balls, and one of the biggest snakes was him. You know, he was a pathological liar and an abuser. I think he did a lot of things without remorse, and I think that is what makes him, you know, and this isn't an episode about him, but I think if you're describing, you know, a person, I think if you don't have remorse for the things that you've done wrong to people, then you're kind of a piece of shit. So there was always a knife in your back if you didn't give what he wanted. Or an agenda. You know, he always had an agenda. He never gave for free. He would always come off that way, but there was always something, there was a reason why he was doing it.
Well, that was the first time with me, and it felt kind of, he was like, oh, that's fucked up. That's the way you feel about me. I'm like, it wasn't about you. If it would have been him saying something.
But why is it fucked up? It's like, it's not. But he fast forward, I wound up joining Marquez with my now coach, John Marquez, my striking coach, you know, alongside with Sam. And then but first I joined, like, Marquez and Daniel Gracie were apart. I was never a fan of Daniel Gracie, so he was never my coach, but despite everybody trying to have me, you know, put him in my corner, I'm a very headstrong person. I have my beliefs, and I didn't really fuck with the guy. But, you know, anyway.
That's definitely
Daniel,
like a genetic trait of the Pyfers.
Yeah, it might be, but
Yeah.
you know, I feel like I'm a good judge of character, and I just, you know, he's not a bad guy, but me and him didn't click, and I stayed away from that. But you know, John was great, and also I go over there with Sean, and we're training or whatever. But my dad was texting Daniel Gracie for like fucking months, and this guy, my dad would text me like, "Oh, you look like fucking dog shit in sparring." I'm like, I haven't seen this dude in years. Like, what are you talking about? Like, where the fuck is this? Is somebody recording me in the gym? This fucking dickhead Daniel is sitting there texting the dude the whole time. My dad's playing to be me the entire time for a fucking year. So then we're in Abu Dhabi with Sean when Sean fights Bilal, and we're sitting at breakfast, and I'm like, yo, motherfucker. I was like, what's my number? We go on WhatsApp because you can't text over there. He's like, what the 8856 something something, and I was like, that's my dad's number, you dickhead. I was like, show me your text messages, man. He was texting my dad. My dad was like, oh yeah, you know, bro, plain as me, like, oh, I'll try to be better next time, like just. But he was like, yeah, your jab's dog shit. You're fucking getting hit with this. I was like, yo, that's crazy. So he plays a chameleon with a lot of people. And Death Machine and him put out a documentary. Death Machine, Eric, this man, as you never met my fucking family. Never met
Fajitas and margaritas.
Yeah, he never met my dude. He never met my mom that I know of. He never came to our house. He never met my sisters. Doesn't know dick. Somehow my dad has convinced him, and they put out. I could have gotten it taken down on all these things, but I was just like, let the man have his fucking little fame off my name. I don't give a fuck. But he had a documentary put out, and Eric's attesting to the kind of relationship that me and my father had. And I'm like, bro, I don't even think I never personally remember Death Machine. I remember hearing his name. But I'm like, bro, how the fuck can you attest to something when you were never there? You never saw shit. You don't know my mother. You don't know anybody. I don't understand that.
So he's on the video giving his opinion on
Oh,
it?
he's on the video saying that, you know, it's fucked up that my
Well, I
hand,
mean, it's
I wonder who gave him his talking.
he said my
points.
hands, my striking looked the best they ever did. Me and my dad had a 2-week training. The last time we'd ever like interacted, we trained 2 weeks before I fought. I think 2 weeks out of like 8 weeks for Adamattia. And then we fell apart. And he threatened to kill me. I threatened to kill him, whatever. I kicked him out. Like, he left the house because I was going to beat his ass. And that was it. Like, physically, that was the last time we had, you know, really contacted each other. And, but Eric goes, yeah, his hands looked the best he ever was when he was fighting here. And I was like, for 2 weeks? I was like, come on, man. Like, me and him, he said, oh, his whole amateur career. I was like, my man, I left this guy 3 tickets for 3 or 4 of my first fights, never came. I remember I was a dickhead. I shouted him out. I was like, yeah, my dad's in the crowd. Motherfucker wasn't there. You know what I mean?
well, he had a gripe with you, right?
Yeah.
He
hates me.
hated Sam. He hated Sam because he looked at it. You know how my dad would talk. He
really out of
always
the game.
he always looked at me like a piece of property, and nobody else was allowed to run the business but him. So if anybody else tried to help, oh, they were a fucking snake. He calls him Sammy the Snake. But yeah, you know, so it was just the irony of,
How much I've missed.
oh man, you haven't missed much. I mean,
That's what
that's all
sarcasm.
bullshit, right? Yeah. Nothing changes. Some people, you know, but it is what it is. But you know, now I've got a good team. I got good training partners, man. I met a lot of good people, but I am very happy that I get to see you and see you healthy and beat cancer, man. And I hope you understand. I don't know who texts you or who still stays in contact, but you were the pioneer of getting us to believe that we could do this shit, man. So for real, like I love you, and I'm happy to know you, and I'm thankful that you're a part of my life. I know we haven't talked as much as I would have liked over the years, and you know, especially with the way my career has gone, man. But yeah, you guys were the team. So.
And for those who don't know, like, where can we find you guys on social media? Because Steve, you're an artist. I bought some of your pieces of art, which are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I do have socials. It's just my name, Stephen Haigh Art. I also have an account for the illustration as well. But I really don't keep up with it. I'm kind of like Batman, man. I live in the shadows now. I'll go on, like, if people send me stuff, but Facebook, I've never really chimed in on. I do an acting class, so I keep it for that because it's the way they all communicate. But outside of that, I don't go on it. I mean, I'll see it if you reach out to me or whatever, contact me through it. But I don't post much, just because of the state of it. I think nowadays it's gotten more video content and. There's a lot of corny, like, fake shit on there for me.
What about you? You still DJing?
Yeah, Ricky, where can we find you at?
You cannot.
You're not on social media.
Just knock on his door.
What a racist.
He'll give you a set of his keys.
I'm hiding in my race.
Wait, so if I want some mixes, can you still do that for me?
Yeah, come on, man. That's like you punching, bro.
Bro, so are you able to make mixes? There's a song.
We do it all, baby.
Yeah, there's a song that I want to. I can't find this remix of this particular song, and I want to get it so bad.
Text me, I got it.
Yeah, I need
Or
to.
I'll get it, or I'll remix it myself. Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
But No, I just I needed to walk away. I needed to take care of some things. Family members had some health conditions. Friends had some health conditions. Taking care of my house, my mom's house. Now it's on the market, kind of shit like that. That's all I've been doing. I left the scene because once COVID hit, nobody was really coming out anymore, and it was so bizarre to watch people go home at midnight. It was so bizarre. It was bizarre. So I needed. It was a time. It's, in my opinion, I think COVID either made or broke people, to be honest, and it made me. And now I'm on a path to something I always wanted to be on, you know. And then once me and Meathead start training again, who knows? There might be a Fight Factory
Meathead,
part 2.
damn.
You know?
I haven't been
I'd
called
love
that
to
in
see
a long
that.
time.
Well, I'll say this. I buy my house, whatever. I take care of business in March. If I was to ever open a gym, we got to do it. I think that would be cool as shit.
It would be
I think it would be cool as
so
shit.
much
We
fun.
all sit down and figure it out, do
We
whatever.
couldn't train.
I would
We'd be
love that.
talking shit so much.
I've never wanted to own a gym, but I will say like it would be cool. It would be cool to start something like that. I think that would be a come full circle, and maybe my dad will even fucking join, you know. And maybe he'll be the boxing guy. Yo, Boxer Joe.
Just
Farmer
goes down the
Boxer.
same
You gotta throw in the comedy. No, but seriously, I think it would be cool. Like
Look
if
in the
there,
mirror and beat your demons, because
Yeah.
that's where your demons are.
yeah, if there was a
all-
future in owning
it's
a
all
gym,
you.
I think it would be cool to come full circle. But
It'd be crazy.
down the road, a few years, we'll figure it out.
That
Yeah.
corkscrew punch that he does.
Yeah, and the walk off, flicking the nose.
Nose with the stutter
Flicking the
step.
nose.
Oh man, wait. As we end this, I want to hear some. If you have a story, I want to hear at least some story that you guys find, because even though he's a dope, he definitely had some funny stories. He definitely had some. Let him. Huh?
Stories of your dad?
Yeah. Start us off, Ricky.
Well, I can't steal it here. I want to steal a good one.
Well, if he's got a lot, he's got.
The ninja story.
The what?
The ninja story. That was
That's a funny
hilarious.
one. Go ahead. I'm not.
We're
That's
in
not
body
mine.
arts, and Angel was starting to change things around, of course, to get business. And then there was Krav Maga, then there was ninjutsu, and there was a couple different things. And I said, hey, I'm ready to take any art. Let's go. I want to learn from everybody. But there was this technique they were doing on the wall, and the dude had his knife against the dude, and he was saying
They're
like,
teaching
oh,
a ninjutsu class.
you gotta turn a certain way, and this and that, and we're just looking like, dude's got a knife in your fucking neck, dude. You ain't doing shit.
Yeah, a
While
knife
he's
disarmament.
talking, Joe just interjects, and he says something like, what's he say exactly though? He's like, I just pinched my neck like this, and he turns while he's doing it. That's why it's funny. He's like, I just hold my neck and I fucking punch his pussy. The class. Everyone's watching the class. Everyone's there. The class. There's people there. Angels there.
He's pinching his neck and he's
like,
stomping the
he's
dude
in the
on the
moment,
ground.
like it's going down. He's like, fucking pinch that shit, just slide this dude. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say. It was hard not to fucking laugh. That was some of the funniest shit I ever saw. And these ninjutsu dudes, you saw all their fucking hearts just melt like, oh.
Class is canceled.
And right, and already you're like, I guess, I don't know how they were thinking or what they're thinking, but like, oh, these are like the fucking Fight Factory dudes. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just sitting there taking a class, and these guys just sitting there like, what am I gonna say? That's one of the funny ones to me. And even Angel had a lot. He didn't even know what to say. He was just
Nah,
like,
I mean, and what could you say?
come on,
Making
bro.
a total mockery
That's
of
just like,
these.
come on,
I mean,
bro.
they took this serious. Like they really thought you're gonna disarm a knife attack.
right-
Like if
it's
somebody
like
had you
right
pressed
here or
against the
something.
wall with a knife on your
turn
throat.
this way. And I'm just like, I don't care which way you turn. All he's got to do is go. That's all you got to do. I've been there. There's no way out. Run. Make sure you're the fastest in your crew. When someone pulls a weapon, run. Yeah. There's no ego.
I got so many stories, man. What do I say?
I got hit with too many weapons.
From wanting to fight the mailman to knocking the head off the prop at the shore.
Tell that
Yeah.
one. That's pretty funny. But
He slapped the kid outside the gym and split his hand open.
after he told you not to do it.
Yeah, I got so many.
Yeah, all right, tell that one.
That one?
Yeah, tell the mannequin one, then tell the one where he hits the dude, because
All right,
I remember
so-
him coming home.
So we're down in Wildwood for the tournament, for the Naga tournament, and my brother is just young. I mean, my brother's 10 years younger than me, so he was probably like early teen. we want to go. He wants to go on the haunted house ride. It's like a roller
The
coaster.
Dante's Inferno?
It was the laser one.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a roller coaster ride through like a haunted space, and you have like a gun a laser gun attached to the car, and you shoot the props like as they pop up. So Joe and my brother go in the car ahead of me, and so you can kind of hear like what's going on, like as you enter into it's all dark in there, it's pitch black, can't see a thing. I hear them cracking up in the car ahead of me, and I'm going, they did something. What the fuck did they do? Like, they're both dying laughing. And I get to this one prop, and it pops out, like, right up, kind of against your car, and it's like this skeleton, and its head is knocked off it. And I go, I'm thinking, like, this has to be what they're cracking up about. So I get outside, and they're already waiting for me, right, because they finished first. And I'm going, what the hell happened in there? He goes, yo, man, you see that fucking skeleton? Fucking jumped out on me. I said, what'd you do, hit it? He goes, I fucking hit it with the butt of the gun. Like, cracked the thing as it jumped out. Knocked the head off it. So we're standing there, like, kind of laughing about that. And there was this zombie character that would walk around out front, like, dragging a chain. He's all, like, decked out in zombie makeup. And he would just come up and, like, stand like on your shoulder. Yeah, he would just stand on your shoulder like as you're talking to someone, just like creeping people out, and they would run away, and he got a kick out of that kind of shit. So we're standing there talking, and he pictured that of all people to like come up and stand, and he goes, "You don't know that zombie makeup ain't scaring me. I'll knock this fucking dude out." And we're like, "Ah, man, like, dude, you can't turn it off.
He just always chose violence.
Can't turn it off." And you see the dude like slowly just drift away, like.
In his defense,
it was
Philly
just
was a
like-
different time in his time and your dad's time. You know, it was rough, man. It was. But
Yeah, you guys were what, neighborhoods apart? My dad was Kensington /
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, your dad was like Tioga. I was Frankfurt.
Yeah. He was Harrogate.
Yeah, Harrogate area. Yeah, pretty much. Like, Juniata kind of comes a little bit between us, but it's pretty much neighbors for the most part. I think Erie Ave is probably like the divide for that. What was the other story? Oh, the gym.
Someone threw something at the car, right?
So
outside
I had
the
just
gym.
signed. I just signed the lease and got the keys for the building. We're at Body Arts. Now I'm getting ready to teach class, but I said we got time. I said if you want, let's run over. I'll show you the new space. I just got the keys, literally like hours before. And I'm like, this is gonna be weird because the landlord's gonna be there. So I'm like sweating it, like even taking them there. But I'm like, it's late enough. Like I think the landlord's gone. Like I think Russ is gone for the day. So whatever, I take them over there. There's these 3 kids, and just as I pull like onto the block where the gym was, he throws an egg at my car. I didn't know what it was. I just heard like a loud ding on my door. He hit my back door.
Was this the Chevy Malibu, the Fight Factory car?
No.
Was that a Chevy Malibu?
It was a wagon.
This was a Chevy Cavalier. It
was
was
a Cavalier.
like candy apple red. I mean, it was like this car stuck out like a sore thumb in the neighborhood. And I got it super cheap off this old couple. It was garage kept, low mileage. The car was immaculate. I ended up getting stolen. They jacked the column up and all this. Like, it was a nightmare. But it was beautiful when I first got it. So they throw it at my car. They kind of run. 2 like run back. The other one runs up the alleyway. So I back up, and I'm skidding in the street, backing up, chasing them. They cut back, run up that way. Go, oh, he's in the passenger seat. They went that way, you know. He's pointing. I throw it and drive. I'm driving up the block now, chasing them. I dip into this parking spot real quick, just like kind of angled park. I jump out. The kid's like walking now, as if like it wasn't him. You know, he's gonna like try and like play cool, like it wasn't me. Those kids ran by. So I walked up and I got my finger like pointed at his face. I'm saying, yo, man, did you just throw something in my car? And he goes, nigga, don't walk up on me like, you don't. I said, what the fuck did you just call me, man? And out of nowhere, your dad comes behind me and just drills him in the mouth. Open hand. The kid kind of staggers back. He's holding his mouth, and then he just takes off running. There's another kid there. And Dad turns around to him like, get the fuck out of here before I kill you. He takes off running. I'm going, like, the fuck are you doing? And he goes, yo, you think his teeth are in my hand? I mean, his hand is split wide open. You know, the whole palm of his hand split open. I said, what the fuck you... Now, as I'm getting out of the car to go over to this kid, your dad's telling me, don't hit them. They're just kids. Teenagers.
He's used to hitting kids, baby.
They're probably 16, 17.
Don't.
I mean, but I got my
see that
finger
one
kind of
coming?
like pointed in this kid's face, you know, like after, you know, what he was saying to me. I'm like, fuck, you just call me? So I'm like holding his head for Joe. Joe comes out and just hits the kid, drills him. I said, dude, now we got to go to my house. You're going to have to bandage that up. Like, you might have to go to the hospital, man. It looks nasty. And he's like, what am I going to tell Sharon? You know, tell her that I fell or something. Like, dude, that doesn't look like a falling injury at all. I said, what am I going to do? Like, these kids live in the neighborhood, and now, like, what am I going to... I lived right on the corner of a busy street, right at York Street. I got a bright red car, station wagon. Like, who has a bright red station wagon? Like, no one. So I had to park my car on, like, a little side street, a block from my house for, like, a month. So this whole thing, like, I felt like it blew over. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Nothing beats a Joe Senior story.
Brand new gym. I was like, man, this is starting to feel like a bad omen or something.
Don't
This
bring
is
him
right
around.
outside of the new gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to be honest, I mean, it was probably some kids from the neighborhood that were probably little turds. They're probably turds now, but
Oh, they definitely deserve the smack in the mouth for egging somebody's car.
It
but
was more like a boss rooting, like
Open
palm
up, yeah,
strike
palm
to the
strike.
face. It was like so much more than just a slap.
Yeah,
If Joe would
palm
have just
strike.
slapped him, it would have been cool. I think Joe broke his jaw. Like the kid was in bad shape, but he didn't hang around. Like he was holding his mouth and he took off.
let's hear it. The closing Joe Pyfer story.
I don't have good ones like them. I just have ones that just like exemplify how your dad really was, and it's the Naga story, where your dad's telling me what happened, and he's making Steve look like the biggest asshole for exactly what he,
The same story. That
yeah,
I,
about putting the medal on your lap and stuff like that, and how he's sick and tired of having you run the Fight Factory's name up the flagpole, while Steve gets all the benefit from giving a shit about you. And
I
caring
never heard
everything
that
about
side
you.
of it.
I
Wow.
never heard that either.
Yeah. He's like, over here trying to get my son hurt. He's going to be the one to have to explain to Sharon what happened. He wants him to go up against 18-year-olds.
He did say that to me when we were arguing. You're going to have to explain it to Shaq. He'll be fine. Trust me.
But it was the way
Trust
he
me.
said, I'm just sick and tired of running his name up the flagpole.
You know, he always said, oh,
All this time I was doing it for me. All this time.
I know, you had a lot to gain. It's wild the way you do it. But he always said, too, when he was like, oh, I'm done, man. All these guys want me to train them. Blah, 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 blah. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm like, from what, brother? Like, you didn't even get fucking paid. You're terrible. Like, I don't understand. But he would literally act. But anyway, that was fun.
I got another quick funny one. Man, I don't remember what event it was. I think it was after, you remember Russ, Gary Russell?
Yeah.
Just out of his fucking mind. He's from Southwest Philly, just fucking white kid, grew up in an all-black neighborhood, just nuts. Would fight anyone and was fucking tough as nails. Not the most technical guy, but just tough as nails. Yeah. And him and your dad would just talk shit, banter all the fucking time. And it was after after his fight, I think. We went to Hooters and we were trying to get something to eat, and they're talking shit on each other. Russ turns around and goes, "What the fuck you want to do then?" Joe says, "You know, whatever the fuck, yeah, I'll fucking slump you." And fucking Russ tackles him in the middle of Hooters and fucking, oh, my back, he couldn't fucking move. I don't know if he was playing it like he couldn't or if he really fucked his back up. But Russ fucking takes him down in Hooters and fucks his back up. Just
It
like,
was always his cop out, man. Always his cop out. I
Yeah.
started submitting him at 16 years old, and I think that really started like right around when I started to beat him in jiu-jitsu is when I started getting my head caved
The
in.
ego check. Yeah.
Oh man, it was bad. And
How did he hurt us back then? Driving a truck, right?
apparently driving an oil truck, and somebody blew the stop sign or something and T-boned him.
I vaguely
And
remembered something like
herniated his disc. He went, I think it was 2004 or 2005 that he claimed disability and then never worked again. He would do like odd jobs. Like we had an outboard repair business where I was basically just a fucking tool man carrying his shit, whatever, which I
remember
enjoyed.
when he drove the oil truck.
Yeah. And then, yeah, he never had a job since then. But I'll tell you what, he wasn't crippled when he wanted to whoop your ass. Back didn't hurt, but right around when I started beating him in jiu-jitsu, I started getting like puberty, started getting stronger, and then I started submitting him, and I think it really like fucking freaked him out.
I also had a problem with a kid in the neighborhood the one time. He was messing with Michelle. I confronted him, cleared it up. He didn't know who I was, had no idea. And someone walked by, like, what the fuck you doing messing with him? Oh, he's going to kill you. I took care of it. 2 days later, Joe comes to the house. I said, that's the kid I had a problem with, sitting right over there. So Joe goes, yo, buy me a cheesesteak. I'll knock this fucking dude out right now. Joe starts walking over there like he's going to pick a fight with this kid. I said, dude, he's just a kid. Like, he's a teen. Like, come on. Stop it. Not going to hit him.
Yeah, it seems to be the trend, though. Yeah, he would talk. He would ruffle feathers like he was about to rumble, but it was always with somebody who was like a fucking teenager. It never
Yeah,
made sense.
yeah,
It was like,
exactly.
then you get tackled by somebody in a Hooters. Oh, my back. That doesn't, yeah. I think it shows a true character.
He used to call him ballhead.
Oh, dude, that used to piss him off.
Yeah,
He was very self-conscious about being bald.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Apple didn't fall far from the tree, you know. My hair
but
went
Joey
bald
got it.
quick. But in all fairness, I got it for free.
Well, it's funny because I think he started calling Russ baldhead first because Russ had a bald head. And then it was like he started to lose his hair, and then it just became like a...
Dude, you could have rocked the Viking look, dude. You been set.
Well, I did. I went bald with the big beard, and I liked it. But to be honest, I didn't look up a single procedure of how it went or anything like that. And my coach, my jiu-jitsu coach, Jonathan Webb, he got a tattooed hairline, and he's darker complexion, so it looked good on him. But me, I was just fucking white boy widow's peaking, and yeah, I mean, they offered it for free, and he was like, "What are you, stupid?" Because I said no for like 8 to 9 months. And he was like, "That's the best place to go. Donald Cowboy Cerrone went there. Da da da. This guy's going there." So I was like, "All right, cool. I'll make you a deal." I was like, "I don't give a fuck to get it, but I will say this."
Pat just went. Pat Ton.
Who?
Pat Ton.
Who's that?
Pat. Asian
Pat.
Pat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
He just
Well,
went, like, New Year's. He just went over there.
They
and
offered it for
got
free to
done.
me, to
He
him.
needs all the help he can get.
Well, they offered it to him, me for free. We went and we did it, and afterwards we looked at each other because he looked it up and I didn't. I was like, "Yo, this shit was fucking traumatic." I was like, "I would never do it again." Like, but I don't know. I'm not a big hair. I don't really care about my hair. As long as I would be self-conscious if I didn't have a full beard. But
Yeah, look at mine. I'm trying to.
If I go bald, I'm gonna have to join a monastery. That's all.
I can't.
I'll be a monk.
It never comes in thick now after cancer treatments. Don't get cancer. They say like, oh, there's the 3-month rule, like let it grow over 3 months.
Yeah, but you can pull off the Three Musketeer look, though, Steve.
Don't touch it. Well, what's funny, like the goatee comes in thick, but this shit on the side is like fucking
you don't have that much gray, man, for a lot of shit that you've been through. You're 40 now?
45.
And your hair came back. Hairline looks great.
Bro, that's crazy. There's no way. That's crazy.
45, man.
Wow.
Right behind this guy.
I'm going back.
That's even crazier.
I'm Benjamin Buttons, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
There's a lot more that we could ask, obviously, but yeah, we're thankful you guys got to come on. Me and Sam have been talking about doing this for a while. Luckily, we have Matt Maltepis,
Thank you,
Tepes, however you say it. How you say it? Maltepis. We're using their studio for now until we get our own stuff and get a little bit more in a groove and figure out what we're doing with it. But we're happy to have you guys on. I was just randomly thinking about you one day, and I was like, we got to get him on. And then he said, you
Yeah,
too?
it's wild because he sent me the text, and I was like, man, I thought he was going to keep it a surprise. I said, but I guess once you
Bro, the next day.
like you said it, you know, it was kind of like how.
Yeah, literally. I texted him that next morning, and I was like, I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, man, I miss Steve. I was like, I owe that man a lot. Like, I hope we can have him on there. I was like, that'd be a fucking. So I hit him up, and I was like, yo, we got to get Steve on there. And he was like, Ricky will come too. I was like, no way. So we appreciate it. We thank you. And, yeah, hopefully we can keep growing this. And we gotta have you come up to the gym, see how I can whoop some ass right now.
Yeah,
Critique me. Tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Right?
definitely. It'd be a lot of fun.